Welcome to my Bob Thurman podcast. I'm so grateful some good friends enabled me to present them to you. If you enjoy them and find them useful, please think of becoming a member of Tibet House US to help preserve Tibetan culture. Tibet House is the Dalai Lama's cultural center in America. All best wishes. Have a great day.
This is episode 269, a conversation with Tenzin Metok.
The Medicine Buddha podcast. Okay, welcome everyone. Happy to see you all. And I'm very happy today to greet Tenzin Metok who lives in London. Is a mother of three, is a Tibetan exile person of great distinction, is a banking professional, but most important, has founded the first Tibetan medicine app, where using that app and website, you can consult a Tibetan doctor, you can order Tibetan herbal medical supplements, and you can be in touch with the Medicine Buddha's own medicine tradition as mediated by the wonderful Tibetan physicians. And I love it because I am, I'll tell you in a minute. Then second, I'm introducing Michael Burbank, who is one of the executive directors of Menla Retreat and Spa Resort of the Healing Dewa Spa in the Catskill Mountains of America in Phoenicia, who introduced me to the Medicine Buddha app and who is working out with Tenzin Metok affiliation, where clients at the Tibetan Healing Center in the Catskills can access Tibetan medical doctors, I think, all over the world. Tenzin Metok, actually, you'll tell us more about it, through the Tibetan Medicine app. And we're very, very supportive of it. And I just want to say before I turn to them that I did study Tibetan medicine myself 60 years ago almost. And in 1964-65, and subsequent to that, I translated for the Dalai Lama's personal physician and one of the most famous Tibetan physicians who passed away recently, although he had received from the Indian government the Padma Shri Honor Award because he healed and served so many Indian citizens, as well as, of course, Tibetans, and also people internationally would go to Dharamsala to be diagnosed and to be treated by him. So he was really quite a remarkable man and a great teacher, and I loved him a lot. And we just lost him, okay? I just want to say that. And therefore, for me to discover that the Tibetans themselves have gotten together and created an app where those in the West who I used to serve translating for traveling doctors in a sort of informal, kind of like haphazard way, can now be served in a more formal, technically legal, and well-informed and multiplicity of doctors way. It's marvelous, and I congratulate you. And so I'm inviting you on the podcast to tell us more about it. So there you go, Tenzin Metok. How did you get around to doing this? And who is your team, and how is it going? So the whole story.
Definitely. Thank you for the opportunity, Bob and Michael. Really excited to partner with Menla on the sponsor screen on the Medicine Buddha app, which we can discuss more later. But the whole idea for the Medicine Buddha app actually came about quite naturally. The story it's a very personal story. Upon the birth of my third child, my mother-in-law offered to look after the and anyone who's been a parent knows the dreaded night feed is the most difficult, where the baby wakes up every 2 hours. So I had said to my mother-in-law that I would look after the baby as I'm the mother. and she has insomnia and she doesn't sleep anyway. With that confession, I probed and I asked her more about her insomnia, and she was comfortable enough to share with me that she'd already tried Western medicine. And in England, with the National Health Service, you only get limited consultations with doctors, about a 20-minute session. A lot of conventional medicine is symptomatic, and they prescribe a pill or which to alleviate the symptom, but not the root cause. She'd already tried Chinese medicine. She tried other alternative medicines such as supplements. So I asked her if she was Tibetan medicine, because of Tibetan medicine's focus on mental wellness and specializing in insomnia. And she was really open. Immediately that I think that, number one, outside the Himalayan region, who are not aware of Tibetan medicine but could really benefit from Tibetan medicine.
Absolutely.
Sorry, Justin, Michael, and Bob, I just realized at this time the light just hit my face and there's so much shadow. Would it be okay if I just reposition and say that? I just feel like...
we can edit this. We can edit this out.
Yeah.
Somehow, when you're closer, there are certain angles where it's good. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I think that is better. Okay.
Yeah, that is better. That's better. Yes, definitely. Okay. So
okay. Shall I start again about my?
Yes. Okay. Please.
So the idea for the Medicine Buddha app came about quite naturally.
Yes.
In January 2019, on the birth of my third baby, my mother-in-law offered to look after me during night feed, and all of us as parents, Bob, you have 4 children. You know how dreaded the night feed is, where they wake up every 2 hours for a feed or a nappy change. So I had said to her, although that was such a generous offer, I would look after the baby because I'm the mother. And she said, Metok, I suffer from insomnia. I don't sleep anyway. And I probed and asked her more about her insomnia. And she revealed that she had already tried Western conventional medicine, and here in England with the National Health Service, where you get a very brief consultation with a medical doctor. She didn't feel that the doctor had, asked about her lifestyle or underlying condition.
Right.
It was very symptomatic, and she didn't feel that was adequate, and she was being failed by conventional medicine. She tried traditional Chinese medicine. She said that didn't help. She tried even supplements, and she didn't help. So I asked her if she would consider Tibetan medicine, and she was very open to it, having had a chronic insomnia problem. So immediately that made me realize there's a whole group of people outside the Himalayan region who are not even aware of Tibetan medicine, but are really open to Tibetan medicine.
Yes.
So then I tried to find a Tibetan medicine doctor who was, one, an actual qualified Tibetan medicine doctor, two, that they could speak English or communicate clearly, and thirdly, who had availability to get on a video call with my mother-in-law and me. So this took so much time and effort. And I thought to myself, there must be an efficient way where everyone who wants to have access to a Tibetan medicine doctor can do it in a convenient and confidential way. So finally, we were able to connect with a Tibetan medicine doctor in India. And then we stumbled upon the second part of our struggle, which is actually getting the supplements that she prescribed. And couldn't get the supplements from India because one, the current Tibetan Medical Institute, they have an email address that you email your medicines to. They get back after a few days and they write to you and say, no, you need an in-person consultation, even though we had explained that we did a video consultation and we had the recommended medicine. And also, even if they did send it, usually herbs are stopped at customs or damaged. There's always delays. So finally, I was able to get the herbs with much difficulty from another Tibetan medicine doctor in England. And I just thought throughout this whole process, surely somebody could put this all together and integrate it into an app.
Wonderful. Yes. And you did that. And how did you put it together? Who did you find to really, who was most helpful in getting it together?
It wasn't a straight journey getting it together. It just started with an idea at first.
Yes.
I pitched the idea at an entrepreneur competition called the Tibet Innovation Prize in Dharamsala. Um, the prize was set up by His Holiness and his team, Canada Tibet team, to distribute the profits of His Holiness's tour, and they wanted to give it to Tibetan entrepreneur. I
Yes.
pitched the idea at the competition. I was a finalist. I didn't win, but I came away thinking I feel this happen. So I quit my job. I took up my shares in the bank that I'd been working for. I put it into a business account, set up the company. At that point, I had no idea how to make an app, but I just felt something in me that said I can and I will. And the journey to making the app has been quite torturous, to be honest. Along the way, I approached an Indian company that makes apps, and I actually got scammed. And half the money that I'd paid as a deposit, I realized it was a scam company. There's no consumer protection in India. I had to start from scratch. Go back to the drawing room, start with the design of the app, what I wanted it to be like, what I wanted the purpose of the app, what I wanted the screens to look like. And then I reached out and I found a developer who could actually put that in. And then it was just iterations of this app. We're currently on app 54. So it's been a long year and a half to get here from idea stage.
So Tenzin, what did you then in the process end up studying Tibetan medicine to some extent yourself, so you can explain it and you sort of have a sense of what it's all about?
I've seen actually firsthand the benefit of Tibetan medicine within my own family. So my mother suffered blood pressure and has been taking Tibetan medicine. And in line with that, she's got lifestyle advice. She's been taking better care of herself, as part of self-care, and now doesn't suffer from it. So I've seen firsthand the benefits of Tibetan medicine.
Good. And did your mother-in-law get to sleep better?
She got to sleep better, but I have to admit her insomnia hasn't gone away completely, but she has longer periods of sleep. And she also, I've had other customers come up to me and say, with the lifestyle advice, they know what to eat, what not to eat. And also one of them said that she, for the first time in her life, she got a sleep routine set up because of the Tibetan medicine doctor. So I've seen that anyone who has a consultation with Tibetan medicine is benefited. She's also encouraging me to learn more about Tibetan medicine, about how there's the mind-body connection, the benefits, a lot of natural remedies, and all this ancient healing that really applies to modern day issues. We've got arthritis from sitting in desks and not moving much. We've got eczema and allergies. 2 of my children suffer the modern hashtag first world problems from our gut bacteria. And actually my son suffered eczema so seriously that I did consult a Tibetan medicine doctor who did a lifestyle review, and she said to me, you should avoid ketchup and citrus fruits. And later I spoke to a pediatric dermatologist in the Western medical field. Those are high acid foods. So actually a lot of this ancient wisdom really aligns with a lot of the conventional medicine. It's very integrative. And I've been studying more about Tibetan medicine vis-a-vis a lot of the modern conditions.
Wonderful. I agree with you very much. When I was studying the Tibetan medicine in Dharamsala, there was a Swiss doctor who was at the Deki, there was, I think, Deki Menkang, the Western hospital in Dharamsala, especially set up for the Tibetans. And he would routinely, for arthritis and certain types of things, prescribe Tibetan medicine, because he'd been there a while in this early 60s, and he'd realized certain conditions that they don't have Western medicine. They just have some painkillers and palliative things, but they don't have anything to heal the underlying condition. So it was part of his medical practice as a Western MD, trained and licensed in Europe. And otherwise, for other things, he did, of course, Western conventional things. So it's really, and Tibetan medicine has a theory that makes it very compatible with Western medicine if the Tibetan physician is creative, you know. Like my teacher, Dr. Yishi Denden, the late Dr. Yishi Denden, he got in trouble in Tibet when he was young, a young graduate, in that he went to the British consulate or embassy in Lhasa before the Chinese arrived, and he learned from them immunization techniques, and he went out and he did injections of people to stop smallpox things and other things. And some of the more orthodox Tibetan physicians in Tibet, they were very disapproving because it wasn't in their system.
Mm-hmm.
But actually, it fits very well, and he was able to go ahead. He wasn't punished or anything because he was able to present it as fitting within the theory of Tibetan medicine. Now, if only the conventional doctors were that open-minded, it would improve medical health everywhere. In India, they do have legal health practice of Tibetan medicine. They have an Arabic medicine. They have a Greek medicine. Then they have modern conventional medicine, all sort of interwoven. But and they are working themselves on seeing the popularity of complementary medicine in the West. The Indian Minister of Health, actually, I met once at a conference, and she said they were not as well integrated as they should be, but they were learning and doing it. So I think your app is truly pioneering, and I would think that some enlightened Western MDs should more know about it. I don't know if you subscribed any or enrolled any particular Western MDs to think of it as some option in some cases. Have you managed that?
So on our app, you can connect with vetted English-speaking professional Tibetan medicine doctors. We don't have any conventional doctors, but we have a lot of conventional doctors who are recommending the app.
That's what I meant. I didn't mean they were on the app. Yeah.
Yeah.
I meant
yes,
that they
to recommend.
Use it,
yes, to recommend. To recommend.
Yeah, that's very good. That would be sort of like the Swiss doctor in the 60s. Who did that routinely in the community there with Indian patients or Western patients, and there weren't so many in the 60s, but he would do that routinely, and that could become a huge thing if there are these kind of doctors in America called functional medicine doctors who realize the value of lifestyle advice and karmic advice, ethical advice, as relating to psychosomatically to the physical condition, and they are very receptive to. I know a lot of them who are very, very receptive to Tibetan medicine, and I guess that's our job. We should help you, Michael. We could pitch to like Mark Hyman and to other people like that, Frank Lipman, that they know about the app and teach them about the app and so on.
That's a great idea.
Or you can start by teaching me about it.
Well, I'm
so ignorant,
on your
but
phone.
I don't have medical patients in that sense, so I'm not important as them. But I think it's really great, Tenzin. And how do you see the future of the app? Are you seeing metrics? You're a banking professional, so you must be keeping metrics. You have a measurement of growth and all this sort of thing. And it's a company, but it's not a public company, right? It's a private company. All your shareholders and all your workers are Tibetans, right? So it's very Tibetan oriented, which is wonderful. It's really, really good, I think. And how is the growth happening now that it's been going? How long has it been going, and what's the trajectory? The graph.
So just going back on the point about Western conventional doctors recommending the app, we are seeing this, especially with the pandemic, people going towards wellness, people looking for holistic advice, lifestyle review, people seeing as complementary. 1 in 10 people access traditional, only going to increase in recognition of Tibetan medicine, and it's so successful that Menzikang, the Tibetan Medical Institute, has 50 branches all across India, and they're even struggling to meet for the medicines. It's so popular in India because already they come from Ayurveda, they're already, familiar with traditional herbal, natural medicine. In the West,
Yes.
it's growing in popularity. And I think, if you look at the last 10 years, acupuncture, reflexology is now so accepted. And that's what my mission is, that Tibetan medicine actually is seen as one of the remedies, one of the options for people with chronic conditions. That is my grand vision, to bring this ancient wisdom forward, and in a way also promote Tibetan culture with excellence. That's why I have a all Tibetan team. All the people on our app are Tibetan practitioners, and they are really purpose driven to help others. We do have international advisors who are not Tibetan, because we want to leverage from global knowledge, global skills.
Sure.
They are all purpose driven as well. They understand the vision of the Medicine Buddha app, and they understand about promoting Tibetan culture with excellence. I think there's so much growth out there, and we want to start organically with helping one person each time, and ensuring that customer service for that one individual is excellent, and that they organically want to recommend it because they benefited from it. So the statistics so far, I've noticed on an anonymized databases, a lot of people are coming with a lot of mental wellness issues in addition to another condition. And that's because, in the West, we do spend we are under lots of stressful jobs and pressures. I my day job is a banker. I work with very alpha individuals who expect a lot.
Are you back banking again? I mean, are you back in a day job? You mean, you said you had left it. You're not going back as a consultant or something?
So
that's wonderful.
At the beginning of my journey, after I had pitched at the Tibet Innovation Prize, I met I had a very emotional, moving experience meeting him and feeling that.
How was that? Oh, great. Tell us about it.
Sometimes I actually quite struggle into words how much it. There were so many different aspects. So I had this really lucky opportunity to meet His Holiness. He opens up his visiting twice a week, and only about 200 people get to meet him at 8 o'clock in the morning. I went there with my 3 children, my baby strapped on my baby carrier, met His Holiness. And I remember there was this one moment that really touched me, in that you meet His Holiness and he speaks a few words to you. I was crying throughout the whole experience, because you could just feel his energy, and he means so much to me as a Tibetan. And he is such a great ambassador for Tibet, and he's opened all these doors for every Tibetan, and I'm always cognizant of that. And that really drives me to be the best Tibetan I can be, because he's done that for all of us Tibetans. And I remember at this point where, after you have a little opportunity to greet him, they say group picture. And I remember at that moment, a group of about 20 Tibetans pushed and shoved to take a picture with His Holiness. And I was so shocked by that experience, because it seemed like such grasping nature compared to, how peaceful and calm everyone is when they meet them. And after the experience, I had a chance to reflect with my husband, and he said, we are just as bad. All taking away from His Holiness. And I realized then that, I also bothered him as one of 200 people, waking him up at 8 o'clock in the morning. He's 84, 85 years old, and we've done that. And we are always doing that from His Holiness. Everyone's using a picture of His Holiness, using a quote from His Holiness, inviting him to talk. And I felt actually Tibetans, we all have an opportunity to represent Tibet and the best Tibetans. And we should, because His Holiness already opened the door, we should then leverage that and promote Tibetan culture with excellence.
Yes.
I felt that shift in me. I also felt, having had this idea of the app, one of my advisors said, Metok, now that you've pitched this idea of the app, you released the idea, the person that steals your idea is not going to be a Tibetan, but it's going to be a Tibetan. It's going to be somebody who went to Harvard Business School. So I felt, maybe there's a reason why I had this idea, and I had the means and the opportunity at the time to quit my job and
Yes.
to start it without
Yes.
relying on somebody else. And
Yes.
we live in such a empowered world. You can
Yes.
collaborate with individuals who can design the screens, make
Yes.
the app. So I felt, I want to 100% commit myself to making the best app I can. So I did that in December 2019, before the pandemic. The pandemic has been excellent in that it's helped make people more receptive to telemedicine.
Yes. Yes.
And using the app is actually the safest, most convenient and confidential way to access Tibetan. The doctors themselves have been wanting for the app to be built fast, do the consultations online and maintain their livelihood. And in August 2020, we approved on the App Store and Google Play Store. And then I released it on 21st of January 2021 on Medicine Buddha Day. And now in August 2021, we're to be partnering with Menla and Tibet House on the sponsored doctor screen.
Wonderful.
I have a few questions about the app. So it's not just Tibetan doctors. So you're referring to mental health. You also help people connect with psychologists and yoga teachers and even monks. So could you speak a little bit about those aspects of the app?
So when you log the app, you can seek a consultation either with a Tibetan medicine doctor or with a wellness practitioner. There are two different tabs. And when you press the tab, you get a screen with all the doctors who are available. You can look up their profile. You can see their name. You can see what they specialize in, how many years of clinical practice, and their rate and availability. And the same with the wellness practitioners. We've got 3 Tibetan psychotherapists. And these are
Tibetan psychotherapists. Oh, wow, great. Where do they practice? In the States or in Europe or in India?
So majority of all our wellness practitioners and Tibetan medicine doctors are in India and Nepal. And that's why we're able to offer very affordable rate, because that revenue in US dollars helps maintain their livelihood.
Sure.
In the East. Also do have a few Tibetan doctors who are practicing here in Europe.
Wonderful. Well, I have one thing to add here, which makes it really auspicious and gives me greater enthusiasm for it. And I think you don't have to fear too much about Harvard Business School people. I think you really have the advance on this. And they would be a bad graduate of Harvard. They would flunk out of Harvard Business School if they just tried to rip it away from the Tibetans, because it is a natural thing for the Tibetans to do. And I want to just tell you a little bit of a story, which is that in Tibet House US, which I co-founded in the 1980s, His Holiness actually asked me to do it in 1979 when he first came to America, because he knew I had studied medicine with his physician and so on. And he asked me to, and he knew I was very, therefore, interested and fond of Tibetan culture, as well as being a Buddhist studies person. And but I couldn't really get much done until Richard Gere joined. And then from 1986 and 7, we started and we ended with the Year of Tibet in the 1991-92, which was a huge thing, working with the cultural office in Dharamsala, and we had 700 events in 35 countries that we did. But I mean, they were like dog shows of Lhasa Apsos, and art shows in libraries, and also big ones in museums. The backbone were certain shows in museums, and of Tibetan art, sacred art, tankas and sculptures and so on. And during that period, I was like the content person, like younger professor. And Richard and some other people were like handling the practical business side, the financial side, right? So then after that, and Richard originally, when he came to help at His Holiness's request, in 1987, he told me I'll only be able to work for 2 years because I have a career, A, and B, I also like to do, I'm more of a political activist than a cultural person, So I'll get it all done. And he was very optimistic. He didn't know the complexities of Tibetan, because you're dealing with a giant China who wants to fight anything Tibetan anywhere in the world, not just in Tibet itself. And he didn't know that. So he thought he'd have it all set up in 2 years, like a big organization, lots of money, blah, blah, big building. And of course, in 5 years, we did all those events, but we had nothing going, no money, even in debt. And also, he wanted to get back to his first interest. And certain competitive Tibetans that I won't mention, but they jumped in and they said, back to politics. Let's go. Let's save Tibet politically. Let's lobby. Let's go here and go there. So then he kind of left. He abandoned ship, the cultural ship. So I was distraught because when His Holiness came at our inauguration in 87, he said, it's great you're making a Tibet house. I don't really need it right now. He's so honest, His Holiness, and straightforward. He said, because the Amsala is the Tibet house of the universe. And I am, the exiles, and I'm operating it there, and we're getting it done. We're doing the job. But in 30 years from now, or 35 years from now, I will really need a strong Tibet house. Other ones, too, around the world, like England, here, everywhere, in America, and so on. But we were the second big one after or aspired to be big after Delhi, And so, so then I went to see him in Dehradun at an event there at the wonderful Tenzin Gampo Library, the dedication. I happened to be able to get there. And I said, Your Holiness, these guys are saying we finished Tibet House's cultural work with the Year of Tibet, and now they're going to go save the Tibet politically. And I said, I'm glad they're going to save the world politically, but should I drop out too? I mean, should we just leave Tibet? We had helped the Tibet Fund buy a building, the Tibet office in New York buy a building. We had helped very much. Our president at the time had done that. And he said, hell no, you're just getting started. He said, you can't quit now. Okay, those guys went, well, you take over, he said. And I hadn't done sort of the sort of management. I'm not a banking professional. And I'm just a professor, a penniless professor. And I was very nervous about it. And I was really upset. How can I do that? I'm not rich, I'm not a celebrity, I'm not famous. I'm just a professor. Oh, you're going to do it. It'll be fine. You'll do it. And he says, oh, okay, great. So that night I'm feeling very nervous and I fall asleep. And I had this dream. And in the dream, all these things came together. His whole, the fact that I had been forced to study Tibetan medicine by my old Mongolian original Zawe Geshe, my first Geshe. And then I had an interview with His Holiness in America in 81, where I pressed him and I said, what would be the national industry of Tibet economically in a new world where you're interactive if Tibet would become free again, which we're all working and hoping it will. In those days, there was no question about middle way or free or whatever, this is 1981. It was just whatever, it's got to be free. And he wouldn't want to answer right away. And then I pressed and pressed. Finally, he said, okay, well, I want it to be like Switzerland in Asia. And our national industry, you can't say that Buddha or Dharma teaching is an industry because it's free. It's a Dharma. But medicine it can be an industry. We have a great herbal production. We have skilled doctors. We have a healthy environment. People can be there. It's high altitude, but for a short time at least, they can be very healthy with good air and so on. We have hot springs. He was going on about that. So I remember that in the dream. I remembered my studies of Tibetan medicine, and I saw Tibetan medicine, Menla. We didn't have Menla at that time, but I saw Menlas arising around the world. Like, why wait for Tibet to be free? Let's let Tibetan medicine get to be known around the world, because there are some problems with modern medicine, frankly. I mean, there are some great things and there's some problems. And the complementary things meet each other well, And I felt so much, and I just saw it all fit together. And basically the sort of bottom line, like the the voice of the deities was, when Tibetan medicine is famous in world culture as a complement to all the other kinds of medicine, and also reinforcing all the herbal medicines, even in England, and the naturopathy people and this kind of thing, that's when Tibetans will realize, by learning and maintaining their own culture, they can have good livelihood, whether in exile or at home. And then when they go at home, they can have beautiful spas and sanatorias. Eventually, sooner or later, China will realize they can never colonize the high altitude thing. They can never. They shouldn't crush Tibetan culture, because it's the jewel of a kind of loose federation, like the Russian Federation after Soviet Union collapse, as impractical. Then you had the different Russian Federation nations, and they allowed the culture of the Mongolian Buddhists and different people, Kazakhs and things like in Russia, although they still have a little KGB control, but still they did. And so I saw that, and then I became more hopeful, and I gave up. So that's why we do have Menla, because then I started asking donors. I said, well, thank you for your contribution. We're trying to have art shows. We're trying to introduce the topic, the cultural thing. But on the other hand, we really need to show the value and the Tibetan wisdom where the rubber meets the road, where it affects people's health. Not, because meditation almost as a mental health thing, wellness more generally. And we can't, of course, compete with it's not legal in the United States or in most European countries, so we don't compete with the ordinary medicine, but we show alternatives. And then most important, Tibetans themselves learn the value of this, and it becomes as popular worldwide as it is in India, where it competes very effectively with Ayurveda and so on, and with the 50 clinics that you mentioned, of the Tibetan Medical Institute. And livelihood-wise, Venerable Samdol Rinpoche once told me that the Medical Institute had more money than the government in exile did at that time. Wow. And he wanted to borrow it, and they wouldn't let him. And he was complaining about it, because, of course, they have, although the Dalai Lama, they also grumble that His Holiness orders them to keep prices very low and also give it out free, even to very poor Indians who need it. And therefore, it's very popular in India because of the modest prices. And they complain they would like to have higher prices, but they can't. And so, not yet anyway. So it's really, what you are doing is meeting my dream in a wonderful way, where you have the potential, if you can sustain it. And I know it must be very, very difficult. Job one, which is highly underpaid, of Tenzin Metok, is mother of 3 children and a husband. Job 2 is some consulting for banking. And job 3, it's going to be the lower income level of this, because you're voluntarily developing it using Tibetan patriotic voluntary. But it's so important, and I think eventually it could be your whole livelihood very well if it's successful, if you can sustain it. And I think it will be, and we will do all we can to help you, absolutely, because it totally meets our dream. I would like to see a Menla. I don't have to own it. I don't want to have to own it. I want somebody else in Hawaii, in the Colorado mountains. Yeshe Dundan had a dream of cultivating a lot of Tibetan herbs in the Rocky Mountains in the U.S., Canadian and American Rocky Mountain, high altitude. Not as high as Himalaya, but still pretty high, some of it.
Similar environments, and it probably in a sustainable way, because environment.
Yes, and so there should be, and your app can link it all up in a good way and make people understand that. And then, for example, you mentioned about how they had to have personal things and this and that, and they are very notoriously difficult to work with. Even the prime minister of the government exile couldn't borrow money from them, rupees. He was laughing about it, actually, because he knows they just want to make it sure it stays secure, and they're afraid of Harvard Business School robbing them. Actually, I have some other stories to tell you and other things, and they're very cautious, and that's good that they are. However, we've got to make it global, and you're doing that. And eventually, you should have a branch. You should connect in Japanese language, and even in Chinese language. for free Chinese in Taipei, Taiwan, and Hong Kong, and so on. And Singapore.
Languages, because our practitioners speak different languages, and on the app in their profile you can see the languages they speak. So some of the European
English is a kind of lingua franca there. Yeah. Well, you're British now.
Yeah. I'm always
God
Tibetan.
Save the Queen.
I'm always Tibetan, as every exiled Tibetan will say, and my children also say that they are Tibetan. But our Tibetan doctors speak a multitude of languages, and it's listed so that we don't have to translate, and people can also choose the doctor in the language that they're most comfortable with. Thank you, Bob, for sharing. It feels karmic, does that what you had thought of and what I had thought. And actually, we met 18 years ago when I was a student in America.
Oh, wow. Really?
And I feel very, very karmic. And I have to also share that the day that I quit my job in banking, my manager wouldn't accept my resignation, and 2 weeks he accepted it. And the day that he accepted it, I got an email saying you're one of 10,000 bankers to have access to an app on meditation. And when I listened to the app, I saw that it was cultural appropriation of Tibetan meditation.
Well, of course.
And I looked up the company, and on Forbes magazine, they had said the best thing about our app is that we pay no royalty fee. And I jumped on the call because I was one of the 10,000 who had access to that call. And I asked them, and I said, do you employ any Tibetans? Because my first this content and this knowledge and ancient learning from Tibetan culture, surely they must have Tibetans to ensure it's authentic, ensure it's sustainable, and also to give back to the tradition and the culture you come from. Tibetans, we don't think so short term. It's actually centuries of knowledge
of course it is.
That we leverage. Right? Tibetan medicine is 2,000 years old. And I called and I jumped on that call, and I introduced myself, and I said, Tashdele, my name is Metok. I'm calling from the headquarters in Canary Wharf in London. In the age of sustainability and cultural sensitivity, do you employ any Tibetans? And they just stammered on the call and said, we don't employ any Tibetans. And I just felt so karmic that as a Tibetan, I should make an app that is really authentic and that really empowers my community and gives back to my community. Because when you do a consultation with my app, the money directly goes to the Tibetan medicine doctor, and they in their culture and in their homes. They don't have to travel to the West like most of the Tibetans in India and Nepal. And His Holiness speaks a lot about it. And that's the reason why he set up the Tibet Innovation Prize, because he wanted to avoid this brain drain. Ironically, I'm one of them, of these Tibetans that have left India with them. But it's to combat that. It's that, our traditions continue, grow. And with the sponsor, a Tibetan doctor app, we're promoting scholarship. We're encouraging younger generation Tibetans to
not
learn
only
Tibetan
doctor.
medicine.
By the way, I have a plan which I've not been able to fund so far, because we've had a hard time really getting heavy duty funding that His Holiness wants us to get. He wants us to. He told me and a bunch of officials, again, who I won't name, in the 80s when we first moved into our new place on 15th Street, our own place. We moved out of the house we helped them, but we were sharing with them on 32nd Street, moved to 15th. And His Holiness visited, and then he told them all, help this Tibet house become endowed so it has capital, so it can fund other projects and do things. Mm-hmm. And they said, Lolas. And then they just competed ever since, the way it is. And so we've not been able to do that. But when we do, because I don't give up and I haven't died, and I had a nice letter from His Holiness urging me, he ordered me actually to stay as long as necessary. And that is that Menzi Kong should expand its education programs to also teach people, like in a 3-year program, not 7-8 years as a doctor, and then 5 years in one of the 50 clinics. So 12 years really. But a shorter one for nurses, for people doing external therapies, massage therapy, for example, who are not necessarily licensed to deal with the herbal thing and don't go that far, but they can do the lifestyle counseling. And some young women can have a chance and a shot at that. There's very few of them who can get through the whole doctor thing, but there are few, but very few. and there's no training for Tibetan nurses. And then if we could make it more popular, then people like the Hyatt hotel chain and these people could set up like Menla sort of spas within their hotel. And then they could hire and give good jobs in Nepal, India, in diaspora to Tibetan expert external therapy, people who do tapping, who do cupping,
acupuncture,
sort of
that's within the Tibetan medicine.
So my point is we don't have to be as paranoid as the Tibetan Medical Institute is about some pharma company, which is much more dangerous. The pharma company coming and stealing some formula and then making a half-baked one and marketing it like Tibetan was, which the Chinese do, by the way. The Chinese sell, they have a medicine they sell very profitably in Shanghai and everywhere called Snowland something, which basically is just ground yak bones. It's not any proper Tibetan formula at all. And with the placebo effect of people thinking it's pure, and China itself is so polluted nowadays that they think this is going to make them go away their back pain, and probably some of them, it helps some of them from the mental element. But it's a really bad, disgraceful thing, actually, that they do. And Tibetans get nothing out of that.
And that's appropriating the Tibetan brand, isn't it? And the Tibetan goodwill.
They're trying to appropriate the Tibetan brand. They try to register it with UNESCO. Our wonderful Geshe Samden, who is the vice chancellor of the Central University of Tibetan Studies, he's the one who formulated the sort of whole case about Tibetan medicine in India to actually have it passed by the legislature. It had been informally accepted for a long time, but it had not actually been passed in the legislature, in the parliament, until he did that. And then he fought them with UNESCO also by showing that Tibetan medicine is its own brand and so on, and the whole Soa Rigpa business. And so they're very sensitive about it, and they're intelligent and good about it, and we support all of that. And so don't worry too much about it, but it's good that you're aware of it, and we're gonna help you as much as we can. Really, we really are.
And, thank you so much.
And you are helping the Tibetan medical community. That's really good. In fact, we did have one big conference that we co-organized with one of the people who used to be a staff person at Tibet House, and then independently she passed away, unfortunately. She was Mexican. And we had a big one in Washington sometime, all Tibetan medical people from all over the world. And it was a lot of fun. And some lamas, Sogyal Rinpoche was there. I gave a dialogue with Sogyal Rinpoche at that time as well. And there's been a call for another one. But also Tibetans themselves can be very competitive with each other. And here in America, there actually are quite a few Tibetan trained physicians in India, and a few out of China who studied at Lhasa Menzikang or Xining Menzikang. And then they don't get along well. The ones from India, the ones from China, well, they are friendly, polite, but to get them to work together is very complicated. But your app will do that, in the sense if they have a venue with you, then they could do it. A lot of the ones who are here cannot practice the medicine, and they actually work in a law office or the restaurant or something else, which is a huge waste of their intellectual capital, you could say. And we want to try to fix that, but we've been hampered by struggle for funding all the time, But we're getting there. We're going to get there, and we're going to work with you as much as possible, and you can advise us, and we can get people for you also. We'll try to get clients for you and so on. So that's really, and we will advise doctors here to work with you, Tibetan physicians. There are more than you think in North America. Quite a few, but they don't know them because they're not able to really practice except in the community, in the exile community. So it's a waste that they don't get to practice when they've already done years of study and practice. So anyway, it's wonderful, and congratulations, and we look forward to a long-term collaboration, and just please let us know what we can do to help at any time, and on we go. That's really great. I'm so proud of you. Really, I really am. I'm sure His Holiness is too, very, very much. And remember, he said that the secret of good health and long life is altruism. you know,
Mhm.
and that you're serving the others and benefiting them. And then that benefit to them, it gives you the life energy that extends your life and your health and makes you happy. His famous thing, if you want to be successfully selfish, meaning find happiness for yourself, then be compassionate and altruistic. Because when you decide to really do that, like you are doing, the first person who gets happier is you,
Mhm.
you know. And nowadays, by the way, after the corona apocalypse, as I call it, uh, a lot of people I know quit their banking job and they quit their brokerage job and they quit their this and that. And they said the day they quit, they were so much happier. And they found something else to do. They were consulting here or doing something else. They didn't all find out that they are serving their national identity, their nation, their people, by making their healing wisdom known and making it accessible to people who can. It was very sad. The people who used to invite Yishi Denden and some of the other physicians who traveled a lot, Trogar Rinpoche, they never kept good records. They didn't cooperate with each other, and they wouldn't. And there was one lady who recently died who had some records, and I don't know even what happened to them because it was very disorderly. Her passing away, people were trying to who was going to adopt her dogs. She was a veterinarian also, and so we lost a record of thousands of patients, actually thousands of clients. And I hope many of them have found your service, but I don't unfortunately have the access to that list because they were, oh no, I don't want to share it because somebody will take them away, which is it's
We will find
unfortunate.
them.
Not that's yeah.
We,
They will
we
find
will
you
find
the
because
more
they're
present
looking
you are. Yes,
they're looking for the cure. They're looking
yes,
for
yes,
something to alleviate their healing. I'm in the beginning of my entrepreneur journey, I was thinking of competition, about protecting myself, but I realized actually ideas are a dime a dozen. It's actually execution, and everyone
that's right.
produces their product or service in a different way. The way I've done it
Yes,
is with the purpose of promoting Tibetan culture over anything, and
yes,
but using that excellence in Tibetan medicine to promote,
yes,
and really
yes,
making sure that the really right doctors are on board, who are aligned
yes,
in our vision, our mission,
yes,
and the way we treat our customers, treating each customer as well, so they want to advertise, but also doing it in a professional way,
yes.
ensuring it's
Of course,
confidential,
of
ensuring
course.
that the patients get the on right away so they
Yes.
can
By the
order
way,
efficient.
yes, absolutely. By the way, do you know the people who have an address and they have a building that they call Tibet House London or Tibet House UK? Do you know them? Elderly
Yes,
couple, I think. And do you have any cooperative relationship with them?
I haven't reached out to them. I I set this up kind of as a passion project with my own funds and try to do
Yes,
it
yes, yeah,
myself. But collaborating, I love to collaborate. Anyone who also kind of believes in our vision and who
yeah,
promote the app. The doctors
yeah.
themselves come on as independent consultants. Are you
Right.
talking about the? Are you talking about the people who own Kailash Center, the actual building in Tibet House?
Is that what it's called? No, I met them once. It's an elderly British couple. I think they actually physically own the house. So in a way, from the Delhi and our point of view, it doesn't officially qualify as a Tibet house because it doesn't belong to a nonprofit with a board that does it for Tibet's benefit in some way. But it doesn't have to be all Tibetans, but it has to be. It has to have a board that the organization owns the house, and so the nonprofit activities go on for the benefit of Tibet, and theirs doesn't quite qualify because I think they couldn't afford. They're elderly, and I think they couldn't afford to give it, but they've given a lot of time and effort to it, I think, and they have events. When I met them maybe 10 years ago, I haven't been able to get much to London because I don't have a big travel budget to go around the lobby here and there. Otherwise, I would. But I only meant it in the sense that I would think it would be, if they're still doing any active programs, they should be channeling people toward you and toward your site, and they should know about it, and they should, as an important product of Tibetan culture, it should be something that they and giving people access to that it should be in their purview. You know what I mean? They don't have to take anything away from you. In fact, they should
Yeah.
help enhance your thing by sending people to onto your website and promoting your website. Is all I'm saying. And if I was able to, next time I can come there, if I get there, I will try. I did come and touch yoga just before coronavirus in 2019 in London. I hadn't been in London for 10 years before that, but I didn't have time because I was teaching and I had a short cycle. I'm always busy here, so I had to leave, and I didn't get a chance to go to them and get them. And I didn't know about your app at that time, but next time I will definitely try to link that up. And how about
Yeah,
How about Tibet House Barcelona? Wang Chenla, do you know him? Does
no,
he
I'm
know
not
about
yet.
your app?
No, so
Okay, so we'll make one of
thank
our
you.
first things.
I've been putting my head down making the app that I haven't come up for air.
Oh, well, listen,
make
you stick
partnerships.
with that. Don't worry. I'm just brainstorming.
You
I'm brainstorming
and
with you.
the house.
Yeah,
But one
I'm
thing I wanted to pitch, one idea I
Yeah,
wanted to
okay.
pitch out is actually
Yes,
using
yes.
social media influencers who are already in wellness and holistic health, and pitching
Yes.
the idea of the sponsor doctor's screen to
Yes.
them to say that if they promote the sponsor doctor screen, and influencers know how to do this because they have all these they have the
Yes.
platform, then
Yes.
goal of 5,000. Perhaps we could name the scholarship after.
Right. That's a good idea. Mhm.
Motivated to empowering somebody. We're paying for somebody's education. We're empowering them to have a livelihood. I already got one social media influencer who has
Yes.
about 140,000 followers in wellness, who's very interested in that, and she loved that. It's
Oh, good.
she's another woman,
Good.
and that the scholarship would be for another Tibetan woman doctor, and it really aligns with my app. Actually, our Tibetan women doctors, I'm the most booked, because men like to talk to women doctors and women like to talk to women doctors for women specific conditions. So actually,
Well,
it seems
that's the time. That's good.
it seems really great to give the
Very
opportunities for Tibetan women.
Yes. And I think this is a great effort. We will work together as much as we can and try to enhance what you're doing. And we'll try to get maybe other Tibet houses to try to send traffic toward you as well around the world, if we can, anybody we can find. And for the moment, okay. And thank you so much for being on the podcast. And I hope lots of people download it and take a look at it.
The Bob Thurman Podcast is brought to you in part through the generous support of the Tibet House US Menla membership community and listeners like you, and is distributed through a Creative Commons No Derivatives license. Please feel free to share, like, and post on your favorite social media platform. Tashi Delek, and thanks for tuning in.